All right, what I'm going to do today is work from the photo that I sent you, and what I want everybody to do is I'm going to do a little bit, and then I want you to do what I just did. And so you need to be able to see the reference photo, the young lady with the long hair. And what I'm interested in is making sure that you do it in the right order. It's really hard to get people to see the shadows as shapes and work from the largest shadows to the smaller shadows in the right sequence, so that it becomes a lot easier to put a drawing together. So that's what I'm going to talk about. So I'm going to do just a step-by-step drawing with, say, do about 5 minutes, and then have you guys follow up and do the same 5 minutes on yours, so that we kind of get a feel for what order everything should be done in. It's just really nice to have this comes first, this comes second, this comes third, and so that's what I'm going to try to do here. So if we have this drawing, and it's cropped pretty closely, so first of all, I'm going to say I'm going to make a frame for myself. If I just work from this corner and assume that this is where the top of the head would be, and then the other side. So now I can start to see that there's a shape here, there's a shape here, and a nice little shape here. So when I start working from the bigger shapes of dark, it will become the right proportion, just because I'll be still working with shapes. So if I was going to say this is the first corner that I have, I'm going to go ahead and fill in, literally, going sideways. Instead of up and down for the hair, I'm going to go sideways and say, okay, it's about, and so my edge is actually being done by the edge of the dark. And so while I'm doing this, I'm looking at this shape. I'm looking at the negative shape and saying, okay, it needs to come out here, come back in, come out a little bit. And now it's like, how close am I to this corner? So I need to come in a little bit closer. As I look at this shape, it's like it's a little bit smaller than what I have. So I'm just adjusting as I go. Okay, so now this will be, what I'm trying to do is leave this white shape the correct shape. And then as I come down straight through, it's like this part here is a straight shot. That's a straight line coming down in the dark part of the hair. So I'm going to keep going straight. There's nothing in this area that's light. And then I'm going to come back here, and then I have a straight shot this way. So it's like, so I'm just going to keep filling in this, and then come down to about here. Okay, so that's my first run, and it's probably about a value 5 or 6. Again, I'm trying to go only one direction, not back and forth. And so now, oops, I'm going to do the other side and leave what we have over here. I'm going to go over here, and now I'm trying really hard to see how far is it from where I stopped with the vertical hair right here. And so I'm going out a little bit, and then down, and then coming back in. And that's pretty much as far as I want to do right now, because this will get a little bit more nuanced. And so I want to just leave it at that. So we have, and then if I was going to put where the edge of the paper would be, it would probably be about there. So if you start with an angle right there, fill in all of the dark, and think of it as like we're going to go straight down here, because that's what the photo does. It goes straight down, then has a little jog over, and then it goes straight down with a little bump. And so that's what I want you guys to do now, is just fill in that dark hair on the left side and a little bit on the right side. Okay, so this angle, it's like a straight line and a straight line. Okay, now the next thing that I'm going to do is now consider that the shadow onto the forehead is really part of the shadow of the hair. So at the first part, I kind of saw the hair as being separate. And now when I squint my eyes, I can see that I can bring this shadow from the hair down a little bit into almost like a right angle, kind of a corner again. I look for corners. And then again, if I keep squinting, the eye socket really isn't separate. It's like, it looks like there's an eye socket and then a shadow above the eyebrow. But if you look at the shadow on the face going into the eye socket and you squint your eyes, you can see how that is really one shadow. It comes right on down, and then it comes forward with a little bit darker. So the eye socket is darker, and I'm just going to try to fill that in exactly. And I'm not going to avoid the eyelid that looks like it's really a lot lighter. There's an eyelid in there, and I know that because I'm making this as a medium dark shadow, like a 6 out of 10, 10 being black and 0 being nothing. So I'm making this about a 6 in the eye socket, and surprisingly not enough that I won't have to erase that that back out. So I'm basically, this is one shadow going down into the eye socket and then coming down like making a sharp little point of light on the cheek, and then coming down the cheek lightly, about a value 5 or 6. Okay, and that's as far as I'm going to go now. Just come down from the hair into the forehead, into the eye socket, just a little bit darker, and then into the top part of the cheek. And that's where it starts to separate from the little piece of light by the hair and the little piece of light on the corner of the cheek. So go ahead and keep working on that part. Essentially, is all we're doing is putting in anything that's not really light, is getting a tone. We're going to work on this side a little bit more later, because part of the reason that I'm doing it from this side is because if I did this dark shape here, it would make an edge that would be too soon. It's like I have to see what we have in the space. I have to see what we have to have in the space. It's in this part right here before I can evaluate that part. Now that we have this eye socket done in just a value 6, a little bit more than half, and it's connected right on up to so I've kind of ignored that little lighter space here, and you'll see how that resolves itself. So I'm coming down with the cheek, and then as low as, if I can kind of think of the what's left as a light shape, I want to just think of what's the shape of this piece of light. And so I'm going up next to it and say, okay, we have a nice little triangle that comes out for the nose, and it goes right out. And I'm not thinking the nose at all. I'm trying to just see the shape of this shadow. And it goes with a line here. And then it kind of gets a little bit darker underneath the nose. I'm always looking for a little bit more of a shadow under the nose. And then I'm doing a little tiny bit of a triangle shadow on the other side, leaving this little tiny triangle under the nose of light. So we have a piece of light here, we have a piece of light here, and then now I'm going to say, look, between this piece right here and the eye socket, if I squint again, I'm going to connect those a little bit. I can see that there's actually a shadow that connects that, and that also, when I do that, it's probably going to make me lower this, because by the time I do the lighter shadow here and then the shadow under the nose, I'm actually needing to lower that a little bit from what I had. So that means that I'm going to take this down a little bit more and take this down a little bit more to the edge of the top lip. And so now we have everything except this piece of light here. And I haven't done this yet. I'm leaving this a little bit later. So this is wrong, and I have to adjust that later. But right now, I'm coming from the edge of the face into the center of the face so that I can get this, the distance is easier to go dark shape, light shape, dark shape, light shape, and you work your way across instead of trying to guess where it is from the other side. So that's the idea there. So go ahead and see if you can catch up with me now. Now when you look at your pieces and evaluate, what you're doing is you're going to try to see if this shape matches. So in this case, I'm going to probably bring this in a little bit, this dark shadow, a little bit more of an angle, because my light piece is a little bit of an angle like this, almost a 45-degree angle if you took the axis. And so now if I take that and then go across at the bottom of the light triangle, if I go across with the dark piece that's just the width of the top lip, and then go just a little bit further, and that kind of gives me the edge of the mouth right there. So I'm going to come back and then say, okay, this is another little tiny triangle at the bottom lip that goes like that, and then if I fill in everything up to that edge, to that point, and then come back and fill this little, again, it's kind of a triangle that goes from the bottom lip, and then just a little bit, and it comes back and stops right there as a light piece, and then continues back up into the hair, but it's like I'm just looking at the shadow, not where it's hair or face. And the reason I do it in this order is because now by having these shapes filled in, I now know where the edge of the face is going to be with the dark that's going to come up to that. So by doing it from across the form this way, dark shape, light shape, dark shape, light shape, dark shape, then I know where the edge is a lot more correctly than if I just try to do an outline in the first place and try to figure out how what this should be from a big outline and go in from that. So that's the idea, and that's how I've kind of come to realizing that will help me. And so if I now can take this dark, really dark, underneath the chin and do that shape, you can see how I'm going to start being able to take that back up into the hair that we started with there. But right now that's as far as I want to go, because this little piece right here, from the light shape, the bottom of this light shape will be the little piece of top lip shape, and I don't have to worry about making it darker in the middle part. I'm going to do that later. Right now I'm just interested in leaving the light shapes that don't have anything in them. Just that's all I'm interested in. Is this is a light shape, this is a light shape, this is a light shape, and this is a light shape, and I'll modify that to be more correct as I go. Okay, you can do that part now. If I see this piece of light that comes at the top of this triangle by under the eye, that is connected to a little piece that goes like this at the bottom of her lid. So that little tiny piece of light that's connected to this triangle light right here is fairly important. And from there, I would probably darken above that piece of light a little bit more, and in the dark part of the eye, come around and give myself the darker part of this top of the eye socket, leaving the eyelid to be just untouched. And that way it's looking lighter right now. But now, having darkened this part of the eye socket, I can now see how far do I have to go across the bridge of the nose to the dark part of the edge of the opposite eye socket, which is not about the same dark, but so that becomes a shape, and then it continues down into the dark. And I'm trying to get the angle of the nose. It's like it's not sticking out, it's not doing this. It's actually almost just a little bit past vertical. It's just, if you put a vertical line next to the nose, it's like it's just about this much. So I'm trying to see how far this shape goes. And then at the end of where it seems to stop, I come in. And it's not like it doesn't come in like this. It comes in really gently, because actually that's part of her cheek there. Let's see, and then that ends up being a little bit higher, so I have to move the mouth just up. So this is an adjustment that I just made. Bring the bottom lip up a little bit, because by bringing this shape down, I'm understanding that I probably had that a little bit too low, and then I'm gonna come in and look at how steep this is. It's like a 45-degree angle. You know, if vertical is this is 45 degrees. So this angle at the bottom of her chin, about 45 degrees, and then it comes a little bit straighter right there. And so now I can safely say, okay, from here it's about this wide, and then all of this, and I'm going to ignore the little bit of light inside of this dark shape. But now I haven't done this part. I've just done, and making this a blend so it's easier to see. And now we have to adjust that a little bit. So, and I'm going to just kind of smooth this angle here a little bit. So now I have to come back up here and say, okay, this is where the shadow, it goes straight up like this on an angle. The dark part, that's the shadow for her hair, and then behind that is a darker part where it's actually her hair. And then that comes to take a left turn. And so then I want to say, okay, we have a straight line here, we have a straight line here, and then we have another straight line here, so that's going to go a little bit more shallow. Okay, so that's how and then I have to compare, does this light shape that I have left match? And I could probably come in a little bit more here, a little bit higher, a little bit more like that. Okay, so that's how I'm kind of coming to this other edge is, and then when we do the rest of this a little bit darker, we'll have a little more expression, but right now I'm trying to just get an approximate edge, but this is also going to be adjusted. I might be too long on the nose, I don't know yet. And I'm also seeing that this probably has to be moved, this little piece of light shape. I have it's a little bit wrong, so it's going to come up, and that means that this is going to come in a little bit more. So it's always a constant adjustment, and so that's going to come in a little bit more, this is going to come in a little bit more, and so that's how it goes. And then we have darker shapes inside of the, as you finish, it'll be adjusting even darker, so that those dark shapes will identify and reveal lighter shapes. This is certainly not white, so I'm going to take this down, and then this is going to be darker in here, this is going to, and then so the next step would be to take the darkers even darker. So we're leaving, by making the new shapes to the value that they need to be, that makes some of this end up looking lighter. So when you put a dark next to a middle tone, the middle tone looks a lot lighter than it did before. So a lot of what we do is just continue to develop the darks, but make sure that we know that that there's nothing in here in this eye socket that's lighter than what we put down in the first place. Now let's see, I have to come down with the hair in here. I have to come down with the hair in here. This becomes part of this shape a little bit darker, and so that's the idea. I'm probably way too long here. The chin's gonna be up a little bit higher, but I don't know until I start to again rethink and adjust every little shape I do. I continue to observe and then say, okay, that maybe that has to be brought over a little bit more, and this has to be brought over a little bit more, and so that means that this is all going to probably come in a little bit more this way, which will make her face a little bit shorter. But anyway, it's like constant observation and adjustment. So that right there just helped an awful lot. So I just keep adjusting, keep observing, and keep making small changes, and that's going to be, but even though we don't have any detail at all, we don't have any small shapes done yet, this is still big shapes, we still have what we can work with as what this was going to end up looking like. We have a pretty good realistic portrait started, and it's the best way that I know how to get there. Thank you very much. Talk to you next week. Bye-bye.